Hi, my name is Evan, and in this video, I'm gonna show you how I do character design. This is the same method that I use to shape the characters of my comics, graphic novels, and children's books. However, it can also work for any genre, whether you're creating a character for a fantasy novel, video game, or even a mascot for your business or whatever. If you're like me, who don't have the motor skills to draw by hand, this process can be ideal because, first of all, it works. And second, you don't need prior experience to make it work. But more importantly, it's so much fun and gets your imagination running wild. I use the most efficient artistic tool I know, AI. Naturally, artists are not fond of AI, but the few of them who are embracing it are already seeing its benefits. Why miss out? The first part of my process is character conceptualization, aka brainstorming. I use ChatGPT as my trusty assistant and Notion to record my notes. ChatGPT's free version is good enough. The paid version is slightly better, but overall it doesn't matter too much. You may use any note-taking app, but I use Notion because it's more versatile and has better organization. Now, why don't I go straight into illustrations? Why bother doing this? I'm not a traditional artist in any respect, but based on my experience, brainstorming helps develop character depth. When you sit down and think about your character, you get to explore aspects like their backstory, personality, and motivations. They shape how our hero looks and make them more true to life. Brainstorming also pushes us beyond our first and often most conventional ideas. So I usually start by opening a new ChatGPT chat. But for this demonstration, I'd like to just show you a character I've been working on. The beauty of this process is that it's completely open-ended. There's no right or wrong approach. If you asked an artist what they draw first when drawing a person, some would say the eyes, others would say the head or shoulders or the rough outlines. Same with brainstorming. It's just note-taking and a conversation with a chatbot. Designing the main character for a fan fiction graphic novel I'm working on, I asked ChatGPT about his weapon first. Not what you expected, huh? Anyway, it gave me some unconventional suggestions. I then asked for ideas about his attire, and lo and behold, ChatGPT's response wasn't bad at all. Now, I don't use 95% of ChatGPT suggestions. They're too generic. But they stimulate my imagination, make me consider things I would have otherwise overlooked. And that makes all the difference. When designing characters, most people usually start with a backstory. You may already have one. This one's mine. In that case, you may feed ChatGPT a summary of it, then ask it to elaborate or deepen your character's development, add intrigue, or pinpoint inconsistencies. See what I did at the bottom? That prompt got me this character background. To tell you the truth, I actually didn't have a backstory pre-planned. What I did was ask ChatGPT for multiple character profiles and worked my way from there. Check out this set of character profiles. Again, most of them are cliches, right? I mentioned that earlier. But I often find one or two suggestions that's ripe for reinvention, which I can morph into something more interesting. Like the Daredevil stuntman, but I thought it would be more interesting if it was also a failed actor. It took several conversations with ChatGPT for me to end up with this, which I tweaked a bit and transferred to Notion. The backstory and character profiles go hand in hand. Other things I developed include his personality traits, physical appearance, where he comes from. These aspects make a character more lifelike, and choosing the right aspects to conceptualize is highly dependent on the type of character and story you have. Remember, no rules, let your imagination run wild. There are a bunch of AI image generators that can bring characters to life. I use Midjourney because for me, it has the perfect balance between user-friendliness and powerful features. It is a paid tool, with the cheapest package being $10 per month. If you are looking for free alternatives, I highly suggest Bing Image Creator, which gives you free 100 credits. It's pretty good as well. I've used it to create the mascot for my Baby Big Brain series. Another one is Crayon. I haven't used it, but it has a free version. Now there are tons of beginner tutorials on Midjourney on YouTube, so I won't cover the basics. What I will do is showcase how I use it to develop my characters, hoping that it could bring you insights that you could apply to your own creations. When illustrating a character, it's important to consider the physical appearance, shocker, clothing, and art style. For the first two, we're gonna need a character profile. That's why I have my notes. I absorb the character by reading it multiple times, which helps me form a clear image of their appearance, including facial expression, hair color, body type, etc. The first character you generate will most likely not be your final one. I actually cringed when generating the initial images of Jack because they were miles away from what I had envisioned. This image was the first decent depiction of my MC. As you can see from the prompt, I described the physical appearance, 23-year-old blonde guy, green eyes, lean body build, and the art style, Tomoko Sudo, Niji. I use Tomoko Sudo as the reference because he's the artist who drew the animation for the recent hit anime Solo Leveling. Now, most people are against referencing living artists. I am too, for most cases. But in this case, I'm using it for fan fiction, and I'm not monetizing it. It's for tutorial purposes only. I just love Solo Leveling so much that I was compelled to create a graphic novel that's set on the same universe, but with original characters. As you can see, I skipped describing the clothing to concentrate on his physical traits, as outfits are simpler to modify later. You might also notice that I'm using Midjourney's Niji model. That's because I want my art style to be anime-ish, or anime-like, whatever you call it. And this is the part where you have to think about the scenarios your character will face in your story, because in the next step, we'll test out whether your vision is actually feasible. Some of my past characters were not. Since my story has a lot of fighting and action, I had to test the character's ability to be depicted in fighting stances. His facial expression is unsuitable for a fighter MC. It's like he's trying to be cute for a photo shoot. My god, even when holding a sword. I obviously can't have this, so I have to generate a new concept character. This time around, I added clothing in the prompt. The spelling is wrong, this should be blazer. But it worked. So I thought he looked more manly, but when generating fighting poses, he still looked too pretty, so I had to redo it. Revisiting my notes, I discovered that what threw off my character's portrayal was his nature as a short-tempered and tough guy. This was a stark contrast to most anime pretty boy types that Midjourney likes to generate. I needed to insert his personality into the prompt, so I added a facial expression. Not gonna lie, I have a near perfect representation of Jack right here in the first generation. So I tried him out in different poses and I was not disappointed at all. His fierce expression was exactly what I was aiming for my protagonist. I've confirmed he's the perfect fit for my graphic novel after successfully generating poses of him thrusting a sword, performing a flying kick, lying down while wounded, blocking an attack. You know, the type of poses you typically see in shonen manga. Some of you might ask, how did I make him look consistent? I plan to do a full video tutorial for consistent character generation soon, but here's the short version. I basically use Midjourney's character reference parameter. Just type in a short description of your character. You don't have to be as descriptive anymore because the AI will be already using your reference image. To give an example, let's say I want him to do, I don't know, a punching pose. This is what I'm gonna prompt. Now I add a character reference parameter denoted by --cref space, and then I paste the URL of my reference image. In this case, this one. Paste it here, and there you go. Done. Looks more like a fist bump than a punch, but you get the idea. You can have multiple reference images and can generate an infinite amount of poses. Some poses will be harder than others, but generally I find ways. I recommend you check out my previous video on how I generated comic pages, where I demonstrate the use of character reference multiple times. Even with AI assistance, character design, like all art forms, comes with its obstacles. Let me show you some of the ways I get past them. First up is character consistency. Yes, with CREF, you can easily generate a consistent look. But how consistent are they? You may have noticed that half of Jack's images show him having red eyes, when the reference image is supposedly green. One image even has red and blue. Thankfully, this can be easily fixed through a photo editing app. I use Photoshop personally, but alternatives like Photor and Photopea also have the required functionality. I'll show you how to do that in another video. Next is style consistency. When I first started creating graphic stories, I didn't pay a lot of attention to style consistency. Generating a consistent look for my character was hard enough. I had to make compromises, leading to semi-consistent portrayals. One page might showcase traditional 2D graphic, while another adopts a more 3D-ish appearance. And the results were okay. Art isn't about perfection, but the deeper I fell into this AI creation rabbit hole, exploring various art styles, the more I've come to appreciate the value of consistent styling. It just makes the story look more cohesive and authentic. Readers may not be able to immediately recognize it, but subconsciously, the experience resonates differently. My way of keeping styles consistent is to use Midjourney's style reference parameter. It works exactly the same way as character reference, except you use the code --sref instead of cref. Now don't get caught up on the code, as Midjourney changes these things very fast. They've recently added different versions of sref, but that's not important right now. Whatever changes may happen, the idea is the same. You use an image as reference, copy its URL, and then paste it after the parameter code. For now, it's sref space, just paste it here. And this is the result. See how the image on the right captured the same 3D-ish 2D art style on the left? I want all characters in my story to have one consistent art style, so I use this approach. Know that you can combine cref and sref in one prompt. In fact, that's how I do it. You now know the foundational workflow that I use for designing a character, which should be enough to get you started, but there's more to character design and storytelling. I didn't want to overwhelm beginners, so I didn't cover all the methods, nuances, and hacks involved. But rest assured that I'm working very hard to share everything you need to know about AI-powered storytelling. So consider subscribing if you want to get into this. And if you're a fan of solo leveling like I am, I'll be sharing the full process in creating its spin-off graphic novel in about a week. So stay tuned for that.